Brought to you by great listeners like you. Go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/baseball talk. We'd love to have you as a subscriber, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Baseball Talk Radio. It's the Baseball Talk Radio Show. My name is Rich.
And I'm Gary.
Hello, Mr. Gary Mack, and how are you this evening?
I'm good, Rich, and you're a little bit under the weather, but a real trooper. You're out there doing a show.
Yep, I got my Hall's cough drops and my water standing by, and oh yeah, there's even that cough button that I can hit over here if things turn worse. But yeah, I got one of those dreaded wintertime colds that we all hate to get.
Yeah, and they're a nuisance, Rich. They don't ever seem to want to go away. So hang in there. I hope you feel better, and hopefully we'll get through this.
Yes, indeed. Well, one thing we're charging ahead for is the Super Bowl, and that's going to be tomorrow. And, you know, what I love about the Super Bowl so much is not so much the football aspect of it, but it means that there's only a short 10 days away from baseball for us, for the baseball fans out there. And Super Bowl sort of signals that anymore with into February here.
Yeah, that's true, Rich. And spring training is right around the corner, literally. And just got to get past this here Super Bowl, and then there's March Madness, of course, and then you got the hockey, but they don't go until the summer. I mean, they keep playing. It seems like they're playing 12 months a year almost, but hockey and the NBA. But baseball's right around the corner, Rich, and a little bit more substance to talk about once we get those camps open and guys start to file in, and now is the time it starts getting exciting.
Yes, it does. And wouldn't it be exciting if the World Series could sort of be like the Super Bowl, you know, with all the snacks and all the pizzas that you're supposed to order around the game time and things like that? It just doesn't seem like the World Series has the same buzz that the Super Bowl has.
Well, I think because it's one game, and they can plan it ahead of time, put it on a Sunday, I should say, and baseball, of course, is a series, and it's very difficult because you never know which is going to be the final game. So unless they played, game 4 on a Saturday and game 5 on a Sunday, and then skip the weekend for 6 and 7, or skip the week to play 6 and 7, but that's the only way you could really do it. But it is what it is. It's very difficult. I knew at one time they even talked about the MLB building a stadium and playing like the All-Star game every year and the World Series. I don't know how that would work out. It's not a bad idea in a way, but it's a series versus a one-game playoff, essentially, is what it comes down to. And it's tough to maintain that buzz because, as we say, anything, you got to win 4. And unless you can do it from game 4 on, have it set up so it's available for you to party or whatever, it does make it tough.
Yeah, and then there's the commercials all circulating around the game, and also the entertainment. So it's sort of, the Super Bowl all wrapped into one is really more than just football, and that's really something. It seems like baseball really promotes baseball, and that's a good thing. Whereas football, they bring all these other avenues in to sort of enhance their game, and you even have a strange Super Bowl moment that you could bring up here that you just was reading about with Tom Brady.
Yeah, it looks like I don't know. It's watching something here, and didn't have the sound on, and it looks like he may be in a commercial for the Super Bowl, and I don't think that's ever happened. I wonder if the quarterback of a team is in the commercial on Super Bowl. The only one possibly it could have been, now that I think about it, uh, uh, could have been Peyton Manning. Could have been the only other one. Big in the Papa John's. Was he in a commercial when he played in the Super Bowl? I don't remember, but lots of interesting things. And of course, a lot of people just go or just watch for the commercials.
Yeah.
And don't really bother much with the game. I'm not a big halftime guy, so I usually try to skip the halftime activities if I can. Sometimes, I'll watch the game, but I'm in and out and I'm switching channels. And now with the TV broken in my house, I'll be watching online probably. So may not be switching around as much, but maybe I'll be doing something else as well.
Yeah, and it all seems like balls lose to entertainment. Seems like have Lady Gaga doing the show, but seems like they're running out of entertainment all of a sudden.
Yeah, Lady Gaga is going to do the halftime show, and I don't know. For a while, it was the geriatric show when they had the Rolling Stones and Springsteen. Still good, don't get me wrong, but now they're going to more contemporary. But I don't know. I hope she don't make it into a political thing, and you don't want to do that. And considering that they're in Houston, which is a very conservative area and a conservative state, be silly to do that. But just go out and do your songs and get off the stage. It's too much, though. It's too much for the players. It's just that after a while, it's too much to watch. It's just so tiresome. Just have some marching band or something go by like they do in the regular time. And never mind these big name guests and everything. It kind of turns the game into showbiz then instead of the sport.
Yeah, it's almost like sort of the WWE wrestling or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. I hope it isn't anything political, because that's not what the country needs. That's not what the viewers are tuning in for either. It's, entertainment and a football game. So we'll have to see what happens with it. But Super Bowl 51, almost about to kick off here as we're doing our show, only a day away here. And that means it's only that fewer days till spring training, under 10 days now. Next time we talk to you, we'll be talking more about what we've seen from different teams, different pitchers and catchers by that time reaching the field and having fun down there in Arizona and Florida.
And Rich, when we were younger, especially me, I'm a little older, you'd hear about guys showing up the day of, and nowadays there's a lot of people down there already working out, and so there's a lot more money in the sport. They don't have to work. I remember the days when guys used to have to work in the winter. Even though they were professional ball players, they'd get a job in the winter because they weren't making the same sort of salaries they're making now. So a lot of them now are down there already, and I'm always amazed to know, where are they living, and do they have their family with them, what kind of thing. And if you think it is a long grind, the baseball season, and it's even longer if you're down there 2-3 weeks earlier than everybody else. And but that's the way it goes. And if you want to improve, you want to make your team and be a professional ball player, that's what it takes nowadays.
Yeah, I imagine a lot of the players are training year round. They never really hang up their cleats, so to speak. They're always in that mode of training, especially the better players, never wanting to fall behind and get back into that grind, so to speak. Talking about the Mike Trouts and the Miguel Cabrera, that type of player, they're probably always tuned towards training and getting ready. And what I did this past week is went out and get one of my most loved editions here, the 2017 for this year anyway, baseball yearbook from the Sporting News.
I like the cover on that, Rich.
Your favorite pitcher, one of your favorite pitchers, Thor, on the cover of this one for us in the Northeast here, and it's got the preview of all the upcoming teams and games, and a lot of good articles in it. Talks about one of the sabermetric stats that's been overused, the OPS rating in this particular edition, and they're actually introducing the readers to a new sabermetric stat. And I know we're not real big saber guys at all, but introducing, they say, the BPO.
What, may I ask, is the BPO now?
Well, let's see what it says here. Here's how you reach it anyway. Count the bases that a batter reaches through hits, walks, stolen bases, and being hit by pitches, and the bases he gains for his team with sacrifice bunts and flies. Count the outs he makes, including double plays, sacrifices, and times caught stealing. Divide the first number by the second. The result is bases per out, or BPO.
That's all I can say. I just it's getting ridiculous now.
Yeah, that, all these measurements and stats and things. I think you could basically stick with the common measurements that we always have: runs batted in, hits, home runs, stolen bases, that sort of thing. I don't know how much you actually need these super enhanced stats.
And I think it just confuses matters more, and I think it just I don't know. I think it just adds to things that teams. I want to see a team go all by stats and win a World Series. Show me that. Nobody's done that yet, as far as I can tell. I don't think there's any pure sabermetric team that's won a World Series. And until you do that, I look there. As we've said in the past, there's a place for it. But I think too many people, they get crazy. Like that Brian Kenny on MLB Network. I mean, some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth about players to me, is absolutely ludicrous. I mean, it's nuts. And one writer put him in his place one day. I can't remember who it was. I'm going to say it wasn't Alan Trammell. It was an ex-Tiger. But he had a higher, what's the other big, WAR, is it?
Yeah,
he had a higher WAR than Derek Jeter. Now, again, and I think we've said it on this show, who do you want, in I think it was Lou Whitaker, if I'm not mistaken, had a higher career WAR than Derek Jeter. Well, excuse me, Lou Whitaker was a nice player, but if I'm in the seventh game of a World Series, 2 outs, and I need a hit desperately, I'm going to Derek Jeter over Lou Whitaker. So, I mean, it's just things like that, and I think part of that is why we're getting some of these guys. We're getting into the Hall of Fame: Craig Biggio, Pudge Rodriguez. And, there are probably more. I mean, years ago, you got Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Ken Griffey Jr., Mike Piazza, and really this year Bagwell and Rodriguez and Tim Raines. And Tim Raines got purely in on sabermetrics because 10 years ago he wasn't good enough to get in, and it took him the whole 10 years to get in. Now all of a sudden he's good enough to get in because people looked at all these crazy numbers now, and it proves he's a Hall of Famer. I don't buy into it.
Yeah, you can really stretch a stat a long way, and I think that's what the sabermetrics gang can do. And we've heard a lot of teams hiring all these sabermetricians. They call them people that are real good with numbers and computer programming and things like that. But it really, as you said, it hasn't helped the team. The Phillies hired somebody that worked at Google before last year, and they had one of the worst offenses in baseball. So if you want to point to that, then go out and get somebody that'll get you the worst offense in baseball. And there,
Yeah, there you go. I mean, is he still there or did they fire him?
I think he's still there, and I think they're adding someone else this year. So that's how silly it is, on top of silliness on top of silliness, and numbers getting all jumbled. And executives and people like that, they like these kind of numbers. They look at them, and it sort of gives them something to read, and an existence in baseball, with these sabermetricians and guys that get paid to do this. I don't know how they can get paid to do this, really.
Well, I think what it does too is sometimes these guys are lower priced, and and the owners love that because they save money on their roster. And then, they'll give you some reason like, well, you had him hitting sixth, he should have hit seventh all year, or something like that. They'll come up with something. I mean, it's almost like the climate change gang. It used to be 30 years ago, it was the earth was freezing over. We were going to have an ice age. Then it was going to global warming. And now it's just plain old climate change. So I think it's along the same vein with these guys in the sabermetrics, and that, well, it's not our fault. You should have hit him sixth, then you hit him seventh, and I don't know. It's just to me, it's too much. Watch the game and watch the player. You can't put heart into numbers.
And of course, Sporting News has their famous prediction for the World Series for 2017. And of course, this is not our prediction show, far from it, but
am I going to be happy by this?
Not really. You could shoot a hole through this in a second. They're predicting the Cubs over the Red Sox for the 2017 World Series in this guide, the Sporting News.
Now that they have picks on who makes the playoffs?
Yeah, they have a whole page of playoff predictions and things like that. Let's see here. I know who you're interested to see. If the Mets make the playoffs, and believe it or not, no, they don't predict the Mets to make the playoffs this year.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's a website called Fangraphs.com that does a lot of this sabermetric stuff. They're projecting, and I want to know how do they do this kind of thing, because they're projecting the Mets to win 83 games this year. Now, how do they project that when you have the same team that you had last year that won, I think, 87 games, and hopefully you're going to have healthy pitchers? Everybody's healthy right now. Well, how do they project that they're going to lose 4 games more than last year with a healthy ball club? Because you can't statistically look at injuries, and they have a deeper ball club. So, I mean, I know I don't want to get off on a whole Met thing, but I don't understand how they do this kind of thing. And you know what I mean? It's the same team practically.
Well, I think they sort of went with the favorites, if you were to ask me, with this particular guide that I'm reading. But yeah, I agree with you. Some teams have a knack for repeating year after year. It certainly seems like the Mets should do better than they did last year, not worse, in my book. The National League wild card, they have the Cardinals and the Giants. They have the Cardinals winning over the Giants for that. Then they have the National League Division Series, the Cubs over the Cardinals, and the Nationals over the Dodgers. So, believe it or not, they have the Cubs and the Nationals in the National League Championship Series. So, with the Cubbies winning. So, I guess you could say that's a bit of the favorites run there.
Mhm. And I mean, you can make an argument for that. Both of them won the division last year, so it's hard to pick against them. But I think you have to look, especially in the Nationals right now. They still don't have a closer, so they have a lot of question marks on their team. You don't know how Strasburg's going to hold up, but you can make a prediction because you have to assume that Strasburg's going to be healthy. But do you make the assumption that they're going to find a closer? I mean, I don't think you can do that either, because for that matter, then every team you could say is going to win 100 games. So I don't know. I'm not attacking the sporting news. I don't know what they base it on, but this FanGraph thing was really the thing that got my ire up. I never heard of anything so stupid based on stats. They're going to tell you how many games. Um, and the Cubs is a safe pick because they won last year. So nothing revolutionary there, but I don't know. It just seems to be a World Series hangover, and the Cubs have got to be wearisome or worrisome about that.
Yes, they do. Everybody's going to be out for them in 2017, that's for sure. And won't be too long before we have some spring training games to look at. But we have some news and notes this past week on some nice gear that we've seen surfacing.
Yeah, they're at it again. Anything to make money, Rich. And they released some pictures of some new gear. I don't have a lot. I've got a picture of the Cubbies spring training caps, and it's got the AZ on the side for Arizona. I don't know. Florida's got the FL on it or FLA on theirs. That's a little, yeah, it's a little wacky, but and Cubbies putting the the bear logo on the front of the hat, and I believe it's the first time that a Cubs hat has had a bear logo on it. The Yankees are actually going to have two spring training caps, one with a white brim and pinstripes on it, and I forget what the other one was, but they're going to have two caps. And actually, the Mets, if I may mention it, they have changed one of their hats. I am wearing the alternate cap from the last couple of years. They have gone away from that one for an alternate cap. They will remove the orange brim. It will be all blue. They'll keep the NY the way it is. That'll be their alternate cap. But this becomes their spring training cap for some unknown reason why. But I don't know. It's a moneymaker, and that's why they're doing it. And they've also announced some jerseys. And this is a picture that came up, but actually, I've seen another picture of maybe it's batting practice spring training jerseys, and they feature 3/4 length sleeves, and they were not that impressive. I didn't care for them. I don't know what anybody else out there would think about it, but I don't know. They looked a little stupid in my estimation. But it's a branding thing, it's a marketing thing, and it's to try to get people to go out and buy more stuff.
Yeah, it's a nice little logo on the side, giving the home states a nod in this one, Florida and Arizona. It's pretty nice of the MLB to put that on the side of the hat. I don't know if I would run out and get one though, but for those inclined, or maybe you're going down to spring training, it would be a nice thing to buy, maybe.
Yeah, and but I think they're getting a little crazy now with this too much stuff. I think now we've got the 2 or 3 caps for All-Star game. We've got the workout cap. We've got the home run derby uniform and cap, and I think there's a game cap now. There's the Memorial Day cap, and then there's a July the 4th cap. and God knows something else. Last year we had Mother's Day and Father's Day uniforms. Mother's Day was the pink, if I remember correctly, accents and so I mean it gets a little wacky after a while, and who can keep up with all of this stuff? But I guess as long as they sell enough to warrant it, they'll continue to do it.
Yes, indeed. That's the market. If there's a market out there, they're going to try to sell. So nothing wrong with that. I think it's great for people to go out and be able to get that stuff. I remember a few short years ago, you didn't have that nice availability of things, especially for the big baseball fan around you. You only had boring hats, the plain Jane ones that you would see everywhere. But this is pretty nice. I think it's nice that they'll personalize certain things and you know just make it a nice thing for a fan to go out and buy, of course. And speaking of fans, Gary, we got another letter in the mail here.
You right.
Thank you, Lurch.
Yeah, we got another email from good friend Jack in Jackson, Philadelphia, and he's a Philly fan. He listens to your show, but he also likes to listen to Mets music and to keep up with the competition, and he enjoys my rants. So I guess I got to keep ranting and yelling and screaming, and he travels a lot from Brooklyn and Long Island. So he went to Shea Stadium rather than sit in a hotel room, I guess. But he gave us an update on some winter baseball watching. He says the Caribbean, and we discussed this a couple of times so far this year. And Jackie's given us some more information. Caribbean World Series is regularly carried on ESPN Deportes. The telecasts are in Spanish, but you can't follow the commentary, but you can see what's happening on the field. He gets it by downloading the ESPN app and picks it up that way. So, and he's a Comcast subscriber, so he can get those games, I guess, on his phone or tablet or whatever. And he gets some college baseball, and that starts about February 17th, he says. And he'll watch that, the ACC and the SEC. So he's got it all covered here for baseball.
Yes, he does. And he even wrote in about some books that he's recommending us to read in the off season. And Gary, we were talking about a little bit before the show. He's got quite a collection of books. He's well read.
Yes, we were talking about the documentary in Hot Springs, Georgia, and he mentions a book that was written about that, Under the March Sun, the story of spring training by Charles Fountain. And he tells us, Jack, that he goes to spring training every year and must go down to Clearwater to see those Phillies, Rich.
Yeah, that's something I've been dreaming to do every spring training. Get the urge to go down there. But like he says, he's getting a little upset that they have what they call tiered pricing down there, and that's different prices for different games. Say if the big name Mets are coming into town, they're going to charge more than the lowly Twins or somebody like that. Mm-hmm. And I can agree with that. Spring training used to be very affordable at one time, but now, those prices have doubled and then some for some of these games. And a lot of it's, you're not seeing the top name talent on the field. The guys are given a chance to prove themselves, the younger players. I'm not talking like AAA, but they're starting to get a good buck for these games down in spring training. And Jack tells us that he's not too happy with the tiered pricing. And yeah, we can hear you, Jack.
And he probably brings a lot of these books down to read, and over the years, and that's how he's got the list. And as you said before, Rich, he's got quite a list here. Greatest game ever pitched, Juan Marichal and Warren Spahn in the pitching duel of the century. That was by Jim Kaplan. I believe that was the game where they both pitched no hitters, was it? Or I remember the game, and I forget the circumstances now. But and then he's got 1954, the year Willie Mays and the first generation of black superstars changed Major League Baseball forever, by Bill Madden. The Baseball Business, Pursuing Penance and Profits in Baltimore, by James Edward Miller. Gil Hodges, The Brooklyn Bums, The Miracle Mets, and the Extraordinary Life of a Baseball Legend, by Tom Clavin and Danny Peary. And I may have that book. That might be in a closet somewhere, because I get a lot of books in to read, and I believe that book came in. Branch Rickey, Baseball's Ferocious Gentleman, author Lee Lowenfish. Boy, A Nice Little Place on the North Side, Wrigley Field 100, by George Will, the political commentator and big baseball fan. Continental League, A Personal History, author Russell Butte. And of course, the Continental League was the league started by Bill Shea in the 60s or 61, and that's where the Mets were going to play.
Wow, that's amazing.
As well, yeah, it's amazing. As well as the Houston Colt 45s, and of course, Major League Baseball got cold feet and decided to expand and to bring those teams in. And there were other teams that were involved in that league.
Yeah, such a great, colorful lineup of books that he's taken the time writing to us, that he's read, and so much more. And even brought up that one book we were talking about. I've heard some podcasts about this guy, and you were telling me a little bit about him. Mo Berg, the catcher who was a spy, and that really sounds interesting.
Mo Berg is a very fascinating character. This guy was a professional baseball player. He played back in I think it was the late 20s and in the 30s, and he spoke a couple of languages. I mean, the guy was a genius and loved the game. Was a professional, as I said, played with Babe Ruth. And one story I remember, they went over to Japan, and in those days they used to do barnstorming through the United States in the off season, but they'd go to foreign countries. And Babe Ruth took a team over, and I think when you talk about some of the guys on these teams that they used to form, Jimmy Fox and Lou Gehrig, and I mean, it's just like a virtual Hall of Fame who's who of incredible icons in the game. But Mo Berg went over with them on a trip to Japan, and as he was sightseeing, he was taking pictures, and he was able to climb the hills and the mountains around military facilities, and took pictures like he was taking pictures of Mount Fujiyama, and in the foreground he was getting all the military information on there. So and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was working for the U.S. government, for the forerunner of the CIA, because they had a feeling that the Japanese were building up their militaries and it could lead to a war. And so they wanted to get information on him. And Mo Berg was a legitimate spy for the U.S., and as well as a pretty good ball player and just an interesting character. And by the way, he died a Met fan, I believe, so if I recall correctly. So that's a really good book to define. I read a book years ago about him, and I think this was the book that Jack mentioned. The Catcher Was a Spy: The Mysterious Life of Mo Berg, by Nicholas Dawidoff. I think that's a newer book that came out a few years ago, and really an interesting character. And again, if you love the history of the game, these are the kind of guys you want to read about.
Absolutely. In the last couple months, I've been listening to some audiobooks. So you might want to go over and find yourself an audiobook at your local library or over at audible.com. And while we're talking about it, you can go to audibletrial.com/baseball and get a free audiobook. Even if you do not subscribe to the Audible service, you can get a free book, yours to keep forever. And they have a nice little service there. So if you don't have a lot of time, you want to listen to your book on the way to work, or you're working out, walking on the treadmill, or whatever you happen to be doing, you can still listen to a book. Pretty cool the way they make those big novels into audio versions as well. So thanks very much, Jack, for the email. Keep in touch, especially down there in spring training. I'd love to hear about your adventures down there and what you see and what you experience down there in spring training.
Yeah, that'd be neat. I hope you, Jack, drop us a line. Let us know how the weather is and how the costs are. And mostly have a good time down there.
Yes, indeed. And another way to stay in touch with the podcast is Twitter. And you can follow us there. We have a Facebook page as well. You can just search our Baseball Talk Radio show for our Facebook page and get some updates there and what we're working on. And did you know just last night, Gary, it was Babe Ruth's, I believe it was his 120th birthday. And they had a big bash down in Baltimore where he was born. The baseball Babe Ruth Museum down there sponsored it, and one of the big hotels down there in Inner Harbor. A lot of good guests gathered around. And I've been working feverishly trying to get somebody on from down there from the Babe Ruth Historical Museum they have down there. And hopefully we'll be able to talk with him in the next couple episodes of the podcast.
That'll be great. Babe I still think was the greatest of all time. All things taken into consideration. Just a terrific ball player and just a fascinating guy to read about and to really study. It's just too bad they can't make a good freaking movie about his life.
Yeah, maybe one day. You never know.
Yeah.
Well, we'd like to invite you to stop by the baseballtalkradio.com website. You can find over 30 great podcasts, all talking about baseball and adding more shows every week, it seems. If you know a good podcast about baseball, stop by the webpage there. There's a place on the bottom where you can click onto it and let us know some more great baseball podcasts you listen to out there. We're glad to put them on the network for you. So you can listen to Gary's show on the Mets, and he also has another show on the Penn League baseball, the Brooklyn Cyclones. You can tune into that. Of course, you can hear Phillies talk, and there's another Phillies podcast I just ran into last week, Gary. I'd love to add them on, called the Felsky Files, from an old manager, John Felsky, that the Phillies had. So I wouldn't be surprised if I see them on the baseballtalkradio.com soon.
Well, a little competition, Rich, huh?
Yeah, just gotta have that good competition. It keeps the juices flowing, gives you ideas, and just can't wait. I'd love to add them.
Yeah, it certainly does, and I've been honored to be on a couple other podcasts, Met podcasts, and made some really good friends through that. And but go check and been on some of the other podcasts on the network, baseballtalkradio.com, and some really great guys, great hosts, and great shows. So go check it out, baseballtalkradio.com.
Yes, indeed. And I was on, I wrote a letter into one of the podcasts, the Libsyn podcast, if anybody listens to it, in the last couple of weeks. I was listening to one of their programs, and the host was using one of the AirPods. That is a new ear pod, I guess a device where you can also use it as a microphone as well, put out by Apple. And I sent him a terrible review of it. To me, it sounded like he was talking through a can. and he had a real bad cold similar to what I have tonight.
Well, you'll never be invited on that show.
Well, I just basically told him the truth that I thought, and they did read the letter, but love that show too. So give them a listen. They're called The Feed. They're the official Libsyn podcast, especially if you're thinking about podcasting or starting your own podcast out there, or even you want to find out about the latest podcast news, because they tell a lot of truths during that show.
And we've even got a video on YouTube about making a sports podcast. So go to YouTube and check that out.
Yes, we do. And we're thinking about updating that now that we've updated our new studios and things like that we've done in the past 6 to 8 months. So check it out. Plenty there to listen to and watch, take in. And Gary, rounding out the show for this show, we're talking a little bit about the upcoming series that Jack didn't mention, but the World Baseball Classic coming up really soon.
Yeah, that's going to come up in March, and they're going to be playing in a couple of different spots with the finals, I believe, in Miami this year. So tickets are on sale at MLB if you're into that. I had the I was never that big in it, but I went to a qualifying mini tournament, and I guess it was 4 teams that qualified for the final spot. And it was fascinating. It really was. A lot of old ball players, not old ball players, but some ball players from the minors, some ball players that were formerly major leaguers looking for jobs and stuff. And very interesting, though, to see the people and to learn different things. And it was really an experience, and I'm kind of looking forward to this year. I think I will tune it in because I got a whole new different appreciation for it.
Yes, indeed. And, you have a lot of major leaguers that are involved in this as well. Buster Posey from the Giants, a lot of stars, Paul Goldschmidt from the Diamondbacks, Eric Hosmer from the Royals, even Daniel Murphy from the Nationals. On and on here. You got Stanton from the Marlins, and you wonder, is this going to take away from their normal spring training routine that they would have, set up around their baseball team? Do you think that's going to affect them any?
Well, I mean, that's always a concern, but they are having it early enough. And of course, the other thing you worry about is injuries. They can get injured, but these guys want to do it, and they've changed it now, the rules. So some of these guys don't have to play in the early rounds, but they can come in and play at the semifinal and final rounds. They can be added to the roster, and I think Kershaw and some of them other guys are going to be along that lines. And I don't know if I agree with that in a way, because it seems you're going to have a team of guys that get you to a certain point, and then you're going to dump one of them so one of these big names can come on. We'll see how it works out, but that's what a lot of the teams will be doing. It is going to turn out probably like you're going to see a lot of major league players that are playing. We didn't really have that in the qualifying events. Because the baseball season was still going on, so you didn't have a lot of the major leaguers. Like I said, you had minor leaguers, and you had some former major leaguers that were not currently associated with a team, that weren't necessarily old. A couple of them 28, 29, but they just got let go or whatever, got picked up. A guy like Ike Davis was playing for Team Israel, and stuff like that. But now they're going to have more pros, and it's kind of, in a way, you wonder about that, and to a certain extent, because Team Israel won this little tournament, to go get the final spot, and it was these guys that they had that won it. Now all of a sudden you're going to have, the guy from Milwaukee. My mind's going blank. The outfielder.
Going to bring in the big guns.
Yeah, now they bring in those, and other guys get pushed out, and I'm not sure if that's fair. But hey, look, that's the way it's working. And it starts on Monday, March the 6th. There are games in Seoul, Korea. Some playoff games Tokyo they're playing as well in March 8th, Miami, LA, Venezuela, I believe, and San Diego.
Jeez, whenever you read about Venezuela, you wonder how could they still be playing baseball there?
Yeah, maybe it's not. Might be. Is it? Maybe Mexico.
But anyway, it should be
Yeah.
should be a great series. But as you said, yeah, some of the bigger names sort of step in there and take away from the amateur type of player or AAA level type of team. But less than a month to go before we have that great competition going on. And I just brought up it says Jalisco. I don't even know where that is. The first
that's the one.
I must have skipped that in school.
Yeah, Estadio Charros de Jalisco. Maybe it's in Mexico.
Let me try to open the venue detail. Let's see. Charros del Jalisco opened in 2011, October, to host the Pan American Games of 2011. Home of the Charros de Jalisco Mexicana del Pacifico Winter League in Mexico. Oh, I should have known that.
There you go.
Well, anyway, yeah, that'll be very cool.
In Panama, is that it?
I believe that stadium's in Mexico, as you said.
Okay, well, whatever it is, just tune in. It'll be on TV and enjoy some
world baseball.
It is in Mexico, Guadalajara, Mexico. So, boy, I wouldn't have been able to sleep tonight. I'm glad you solved that problem for us, Rich. But go watch some World Baseball Classic to get your baseball fix. It's pretty good ball, really, and it's fascinating. And if you pay attention to the people, you'll have a real blast.
Yes, indeed. So we can't wait. March, that will bring, and then of course April, opening up the start of the 2017 season. And I know a lot of baseball fans are chomping at the bit out there. You see more and more some baseball hats being worn around town, some baseball jackets. I had mine on tonight, and just, every now and again you get somebody look at you like, "Oh man, baseball's on the way."
Well, I've had mine on all this winter, so even my winter hat's a Mets hat. So
that's standard equipment for.
That's right.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to this show. We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll have some more great shows coming up for you.
And we'll see you all next time.